Assalamualaikum and good morning. Thank you everyone for attending the CPD seminar with the title Architectural Heritage Tour to Banten and Jakarta, and it's organized by the Pam Cpd committee. Inshallah, I will be your moderator and the first speaker, and my colleague Architect Najib will take the second session with more details and exciting talk about the tour. Just to remind you that at the end of the session, we will have a 5 to 10 minutes Q&A session. And then please post your question in the Q&A tab of box. So we will try to answer it as precise as possible. Okay. I think we can begin now. Okay, this is my first slide. So if you can see on your left, this is the poster for the webinar. So it's just a combination of the photos from our visits, which Architect Najib will go into details. All right. Okay. So I start with a question: why do architects need to travel? So there are some reasons, lots of reasons, the architect must travel, and some of the reasons that I collected is just to sit and observe. So we just sit and observe during our journey and our transit. Sometimes we take a very long hours of traveling, maybe by train or by flight. Then sometimes we get to transit 2 hours, 3 hours. So we just sit there, observe people, from different race, religion, from different countries, different cultures and everything. So that's one of the reasons that architects travel. And the second one is connecting with people with varied interests. We love to connect with people, meeting people with different interests from ours. In terms of works, maybe they're not architects, maybe they're engineers, writers, they can be anything, and then from there we share experience and also stories. We share laughters during along the journey. Okay, and then the third one, it could be history. Because of history, we travel because we want to visit the historical place. We want to see different cultures. We want to listen and learn about different cultures and folklores. So that's the third one. And number 4, maybe because of the similarities and differences. We want to learn about the places, a different place from our place, a different way of life, and different perspective of living. It's very important because when architects design things, they need to have all those knowledge so that they can apply to their design. Yeah, that's part of it. So, and the third one, the fifth one is rural and urban fabric studies. So we, as we travel, for example, from our place to different countries in Asia or in Europe, America, we got to experience a different sense of place, different types of building and natures. So yeah, those are the reasons. Yeah. So, and the list will go on and on. It depends on the architect himself. Yeah. All right. So we move on to the next slide. Okay, we go to the organizer of the Pan Heritage and Conservation visit. So the committee involved is Pam Heritage and Conservation Committee, or we call it Pam HCC, and it was supported by e-commerce Malaysia. So we have a plan for this trip for quite some time. Due to so many reasons, we have to postpone and we have to relook at the program. And finally, we managed to organize this trip in November 2019. So just barely 4 months from lockdown in Malaysia. Okay, 2019. But in Wuhan at that time, it's already news, with that pandemic, with that COVID-19. But we still, on November, we're still traveling to Jakarta. Yeah. Okay, so the intention of our visit is to seek knowledge and educate our participants. Mostly they are architects, and some of them spouse of the architect, and also one engineer, and one or two is from a different background. Okay, so we seek knowledge and we want to seek knowledge and educate participants on heritage conservation practice in the historical sites of Banten and Jakarta. And one of the reasons is that it's very exciting to visit Banten, is that it shares a similar history with Malacca as a trading post for Dutch. Yeah? So architect Najib will talk more about it later. Okay, the program is that we have a 4-day, 3 nights trip from 22nd to 25th of November 2019. And we spent 2 nights in Banten and 1 night in Jakarta. So as I mentioned just now, the participants are from PAM and e-commerce members, 17 altogether. So, okay, next slide. Okay, let me get everybody's orientation correct first. So some of you might not know where exactly Banten is. So geographically, it's in West Java Island, very near to Jakarta. You can see from the slide, this red color area, that is Banten. Okay, so I put an arrow there. During those time, 300, 400 years ago, that route is used by the European, Middle Eastern, and also from those from India coming to Malacca and also to Indonesia. So those who comes to Banten, they will take that route. Yeah, first they will see the Padang port, Padang port, and then they will go down to Banten. Okay, if you can see the slide here, on your right, there's a Banten Province. Okay, it is a province. And the capital of that province is Serang. We call it Serang, just right on top of it. Tangerang is in Jakarta. Serang is a capital of Banten's province. It's almost similar to a state. Yeah? In Malaysia, it's a state. So Banten Province is on the westernmost of Java Island. And I also include in this slide a map of Banten in 1599. There is a Portuguese map. You can see it's a hustling port, and we see lots of ships there, and a fort residential area that's belong to Dutch. Yeah? There's a trading post here for Dutch, and there's people coming from Europe, from Middle East, so they stop by here. Yeah? they use it as trading post. Okay, we go to the next one. Okay, this is how we get to Jakarta, to Banten. So we took a direct flight from KL to Jakarta, to Soekarno-Hatta Airport. And from Soekarno-Hatta Airport, we took a bus tour to Banten. Banten is not that far from Jakarta. It's just about maybe 1 hour because of the traffic jam and all that. And in Indonesia, they call it macet. It's very busy traffic. So it took maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hours for just a short distance of 10 or 20 kilometers. It depends. So our flight took about 2 hours, yeah, from KL to Soekarno-Hatta, and to and fro. Okay, so you can see, so there's a KLIA, and the bottom one is the Soekarno-Hatta Airport. All right, next slide. Okay, the first visit that we have was to Ikatan Arsitek Indonesia. So when we arrived on the first day at Jakarta Soekarno-Hatta Airport, we headed straight to Ikatan Arsitek Indonesia. So we met up with the council members, and also we got to meet the president, Architect Johara, and we exchanged gift and exchange. As you can see here, we use our Masjid Jami painting, a replica of the Masjid Jami painting, and we have Ecomos also here. So you can see Dato Hajida there. So he was the president of Ecomos at that time. So we have a chance to meet up. We're supposed to meet also Ecomos Indonesia president, but due to some reason, because the headquarters of Ecomos Indonesia is in Bandung, if I'm not mistaken. So they couldn't make it at the last minute. So we just met Architect Ahmad Johara. So we had a good discussion on how the two organizations can work together, especially on the heritage conservation ideas and talks or seminar. You know, we plan lots of things. So we are following up from time to time now on that. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm going to show you very briefly all the places of interest in Banten. This is on the after we finished with IAI, we headed straight to Banten, and we spent 2 nights there in Banten. But during that 2 nights and 2 days, we went around. So these are the composition of all the places that we have visited. For example, you can see from the top right, Fort Spilwick. It's an old fort. And then there's a Taman Keraton Kaibon. Kaibon is keibuan in bahasa Indonesia. So that's a palace. The king has built the palace for his mother. So that's why I call it keibuan, Kaibon. And then we visited Museum Purbakala. There's a display of ancient cannons, a bronze cannon, a lot of it. So big, you know, that's during Dutch time, in 1500, 1600, during that time. And also there's a place called Tasik Kardi. This is like a water reservoir being made for the palace and for the people around that area. And you can see also here, there's a fort made out of seashells, a combination of seashell and some other element to make up for that plaster, for the fort. And yeah, we have that sketches done by Dato Hajida, very interesting, very nice. So and then we also visited the Masjid Agung Banten. You can see our group photo there in front of the minaret in the big area in front of the masjid there. It's open area. Okay, so we move on to Jakarta. So these are places that we visited in Jakarta. You can see the Istiklal Mosque. It's huge. You can see from the interior of it. I think it can take 100,000 of prayers. And then also the Monument National, Monas, bottom right. And also the Fatahillah Square. There's the old Batavia. You can see a Dutch-like building, and then there's now they have been converted adaptive reuse to a museum and also shops. And also there's a famous Batavia cafe. You see the interior of it, it's very nice. We used to have like a boat house, but now it was torn down in Malaysia. So the interior of it, when boat house was a restaurant, it looks almost similar like this. Okay, and then we also visited the old port, Sunda Kelapa port. You can see there's a wooden or timber ships, very big ships there. Okay, those are some of the places of interest in Jakarta that will be elaborated more by architect Najib. Okay, next one. Okay, these are the composition of all the places that we visited in 4 days. We were there. So you can see again, that's a big cannon in Museum Purbakala, and we have Istiklal Mosque, sorry, and then 1,000 door masjid or Masjid Seribu Pintu on the right of the slide. And then there's a photo of Dato Hajda with Pak Johara. And then we were celebrated by the cultural group of Banten. We were lucky to have the VIP from Banten. I think the ahli parliament, members of parliament, who helped to organize our trip. So we got to visit all the area briefly because they have the outriders, following us. Okay, these are the photos toward the end of our visit. Okay, we say goodbye to them, proceed to the airport, and we really enjoy the company of our colleague in Jakarta and Banten, and we got to taste also some coffee luwak or coffee musang, something like that, yeah, from Sumatra. And also we visited. You can see there's a photo of, there's a big screen in the airport. You see the president, Jokowi, is waving at the visitors. It's a goodbye notes. Okay, my last slide will be our condolences. We were very sad, after 4 months from our trips. We visited the place in November 2019, but 27th of March next year, just about 4 months later, we received sad news that Pak Johara, the president of AIA, passed away due to COVID-19. So we were very sad. And then on February 22nd, the following years, 2021, meaning this year, there's another of our colleagues from Banten, Ibu Tanya Alwi. She's a historian and she's very keen, with the heritage of Banten. Also passed away. So if you can see from the previous slide, there on the top right, Dato Hajida with Ibu Tanya, and also the photo next to it is Ibu Tanya on white blouse. So we were so sad for the passing of these two great figure to us. So with that, for Muslim audience, I would like to have we offer a Fatihah to these two persons, and for the non-Muslim, maybe you can have a moment of silence. Okay, Al-Fatihah. Okay, with that, I have to end it here for now. I will hand it over to Architect Najib to explain further on the places that we have visited. And toward the end, I will come back again for a Q&A. So enjoy the talk by Architect Najib. Thank you very much. Architect Najib, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Dato Zul. And okay, we had a very exciting trip to Banten and Jakarta, and these are some of the insights from the visit that we did. We really had a lot of places that we went to, so I can't cover everything because that will just take too long, and I will have to really skim through quite a lot of things, but I will give you all the most relevant information on what we saw and what we learned and what we experienced. And I think some of you already know that I'm going to, hopefully, if there are no hiccups, I'm going to show a video of how my hand and Dato Zul's hand were, well, we went through a mystical ritual. Okay. Now, very quickly, that was on the left-hand side here, I'm going to use my cursor, was the very first advert that we used to get people to come with us to Banten in 2019. That was way back, I think, since about October 2019. And very quickly, because we are going to prepare for new trips after the pandemic, hopefully, inshallah. So how to set a trip? Well, set goals and create a plan, decide on your locations, and reduce and control expenses. Remember that, yeah, because this is really what we're going to do. And next trip, I think we have to do it internally. We're going to Perak. Okay, more on that later. Okay. Now, Dato has already given you the general location of Banten Province, and I'm going to give you a little bit more. I'm just trying to move this panel here because it's disturbing what I see myself. I don't think you can see this panel, but that's okay. Okay, so this is a more touristic map of Western Java, and Banten Province is at the very westernmost tip of Java. And I hope you can see my cursor. It is, of course, just to the west of Jakarta. And Jakarta itself in Indonesian is known as DKI, Daerah Khusus Ibu Kota. And the urban superconurbation of Jakarta, you can see Jabodetabek, which means Jakarta, Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, Bekasi. Okay, and Tangerang. Okay, Tangerang, you can see that where my cursor is. Actually, Tangerang, although it's an extension of Jakarta, it is within Banten Province. Okay, and Jabodetabek is one of the world's biggest urban conurbations. It is the only reason it is not officially the biggest is simply because administratively they are all separate. So Jakarta has a separate city hall, Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, Bekasi, all of them have different their own administrations. But in terms of practical connections, they're actually one huge city with a population of almost 20 million. almost 20 million, really one of the world's biggest. But Banten itself, this whole area of the province of Banten is only about, well, I shouldn't say only, it is about almost 12 million people, okay? And in terms of overall size, at about 9,000 square kilometers, it's slightly bigger than the whole of Selangor and KL put together. Okay, so imagine Selangor and KL, everybody knows that, and add about 10% of Selangor KL, because Selangor KL is about 8,300 square kilometers, and Banten is about 9,000 square kilometers. Okay. Next, a little bit on the historical background of Banten Province. Okay. I have simplified, maybe oversimplified it into three parts for us to easily understand. Of course, there was the earlier history before colonialism, and that is very long. If you understand that even our lovely little state of Perlis also has Neolithic remains from our ancestors, then of course even Banten has them as well. It's all over Southeast Asia. But in terms of recorded kingdoms, then one of the earliest is the 6th century kingdom of Nagara, which was a contemporary of Sriwijaya, which of course, as we know, has had its capital in Palembang, and the empire extended well into the Malay Peninsula. In fact, Kedah was sort of like is now found to have been one of the co-capitals of Sriwijaya, in the sense that you imagine the United States, Washington, D.C. is the capital, but New York City is, the commercial capital, similar to Sriwijaya. Palembang was the administrative capital, but Kedah was like the New York of Sriwijaya. Wow, that's really quite a what do you say? Quite a comparison. Okay, but for our purposes, we're going to see some of the remains of the Bantam Sultanate, which existed from the 16th century and was really a very prominent sultanate with very good ties with the rest of Southeast Asia, the Malay world, with China, with various Indian states, and even as far as the Arabian entities, all of whom had sent traders to Banten. And the second part is, of course, the colonial part, and that's there was a little bit of Portuguese, but mostly it's Dutch influence under the VOC. These days, if you see the newspapers, VOC, it's been corrupted for us heritage lovers as variants of concern, COVID-19 variants of concern. But of course, when we talk about VOC here in heritage, it's and I'm going to boast my ability in Dutch here, Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie. VOC, that's the Dutch East India Company, and existed right until 1799, almost a day before 1800. It was dissolved for various reasons, some political and taxation and all that. But it was very powerful, of course, and as we know, it had influence in Malacca as well. But of course, the whole of Indonesia, as we know it then, was under VOC, meaning Dutch influence, and Banten was no exception. We'll go through that more. And Banten, of course, gained independence together with the rest of the Republic of Indonesia, 1945. But it was put under West Java province, and it was only in 2000, the 2004 October, that Banten gained its own provincial status, something which it had wanted all along. Initially, it was put under West Java. For Malaysians, you don't quite realize how fluid Indonesian internal boundaries are. Indonesian provincial boundaries have changed so much since their independence. You can't imagine how that could happen in Malaysia. And of course, that's because we have very different histories. Our states were really, really independent states before Merdeka. Whereas in Indonesia, of course, there were independent states, but throughout the turmoil of Dutch control and the independence movement, all those borders became very fluid. Okay. We go on to a little bit on finishing up what Dato had started on our visit to the Ikatan Arsitek Indonesia. I remember Dato mentioned AIA, and that's the American Institute of Architects. And I was studying in the States. That was, of course, something very, very very big, AIA. And I remember my Indonesian colleague in the States saying that, kami punya terbalik, Pak. Yeah, IAI, in Ikatan Arsitek Indonesia. Arsitek is of course architects. Okay, now I was very honored that among the gifts that were given, you can see there are two autograph signatures here. On the left is the late president of IAI, Bapak Ahmad Juhara, and on the right is the book that we gave to them. Well, one of the books, we gave a few books, and I was pleasantly surprised that one of my books was chosen, one of the books that I wrote for Pam, and it's the architectural heritage of Kuala Lumpur, or Kuala Lumpur Primerdeka. And if you can see my, oops, no, you can't. Oh, maybe there you can see that I'm holding the book to the camera, but because of the background, it's not clear. But anyway, no problem. It's called Architectural Heritage. As Dato mentioned, the other gift that we gave was the architectural illustration of, there you can see on the left, the picture there, of Masjid Jami, which was drawn and, well, painted during the time of Arthur Benison Hubbard himself, the architect of the British administration in Malaya. And that painting or architectural illustration was brought back by myself way back in, let's see, I think 2014 from the UK. Okay, let's go on. Our first major visit was this very unique mosque called the Masjid Pintu Seribu. That's the nickname, and I'm going to play the video. So I'll talk as we watch the video. Now, we already, on the right-hand side, this is already the mosque, Masjid Pintu Seribu, very unique. Okay, most mosques, you know, have one very clear building, but this one you can see it has three parts. The one on the right with the green wall, and then this part here, which is sort of like the welcome part, and then the part on the left that you saw just now, which was in brick and looks as if it was unfinished. Maybe it was. It's really quite a mystery kind of thing here when we visited. Although we did talk to some people, but even they didn't.
Belum.
Yeah, belum, meaning I've never visited this. I've been to Banten before in 2014, but not to this particular mosque, which began construction in 1978. And it is an organic mosque. That's why it's so unique. And indeed, it has, well, true to its name, about 1,000 doors. To be very specific, it has 999 doors. So these are some of the interior shots. Let me see if I can enlarge. Oops. Okay, yes. Okay, now this gives us a little bit of information on the mosque itself. Now, the official name of the mosque, as you can see below there, is Masjid Agung Nurul Yakin Pintu Seribu, in brackets 999, 999. So it really has 999 doors, at least that's what they tell us. And there's a reason why they didn't put it to exactly 1,000, you know, some sort of mystical stuff known only to themselves. But I like to read the pemberitahuan. Tata tertib khusus di ruang tasbih, pengunjung diharuskan memakai pakaian yang sopan sesuai ajaran Islam. Pengunjung dilarang merokok, no smoking. The first one, you have to wear, you know, proper attire. Number 3, pengunjung dilarang banyak berbicara, berbuat gaduh. I like this one a lot, you know, no fighting in the mosque. I mean, well, you shouldn't fight anywhere, not just in the mosque, but well, that's good. Pengunjung diharuskan banyak berzikir dan bersolawat. Also very good. You need to, you know, do your recitation and always think of God and our Prophet. And number 5, bagi pengunjung diharap punya air wudhu atau suci dari hadas besar. For Muslims, you will understand that this means that you have to have your ablution and you must be free from hadas besar. This is a bit difficult to explain to non-Muslims, but basically, well, the most important thing is, I mean, sort of like you shouldn't have sex in the mosque, something like that, you know, quite understandable. But that's the main point of it. And then, as if it's an afterthought, number 6, bagi wanita yang punya haid dilarang masuk. This is again something that is very Islamic. Well, actually, Hindu temples do the same thing, I understand as well. Women who are menstruating are not allowed to be inside the mosque, which means also women who are menstruating do not need to pray. They are given a holiday from prayers. Okay, we call it ABC, Allah bagi cuti. God gave women a time of holiday from prayers. Men, you have to pray all the time. Yeah, no excuses. Okay, and let's go back to the. Now, another thing interesting about this mosque is for a small fee. I think it was about 20,000 rupiah, something like that. Probably about 7 or 8 ringgit. Okay, you can. There is a guided tour. It's a spiritual tour where you go into this. Okay, the left part of the mosque, which I mentioned earlier, seemed to be unfinished. And when you look inside, like these 2 pictures here, this one where you can see that I'm about to enter a little like a tunnel, and this is the tunnel. So we went in as a group, and we were all told there's no electricity in this particular part. There's no lights. Well, at least not that they switched on, and it's on purpose because apparently this is just to give you an experience of like death in the afterlife, and then you go in a very dark place, and you're given a little sermon on contemplating and meditating and all that, and then finally a prayer. And if you're claustrophobic, it can be a little bit scary. But since we were in a big group, there was a lot of support for each other, so a little bit of laughing here and there. But we were severely reprimanded to be serious about it, which fair enough, it should be so. But it was a good experience. So I've never had this anywhere else in the world, and I've traveled to 52 countries around the world. So this was a very unique experience, and of course, especially for Muslims. And the other good experience was after that, there was, of course, the stalls outside, and you can have your coffee and your gorengan, sort of fries and stuff like that. Okay, next. Okay, after that, we went to Tasik Ardi, and Tasik, it's a bit unusual that Indonesians use the word Tasik because they usually use the word danau for lake. And this was a lake which was, I'll talk more about the lake later, but in this slide, I want to pay tribute to Ibu Tanya here, as my cursor is showing, as Dato Zul mentioned, the lady in the white blouse. Ibu Tanya, I had already known her long before this trip, had met her at least twice, once in Indonesia, once in Malacca. She is a wonderful heritage lover. She's almost like an aunt to me. And we shared a very special bond because I was the only Malaysian who has ever visited her home island of Banda in eastern Indonesia. No other Malaysian has ever visited Banda in eastern Indonesia. It's this tiny, tiny, tiny island in the middle of nowhere, where that is the home of the nutmeg. Okay, that was the only place in the world where nutmegs grew naturally. It was only later that the British smuggled out the seeds from under the noses of the Dutch and planted them in various places, including Penang, which was one of the reasons that Penang became rich. And so really our Al-Fatiha as read out for Ibu Tanya. And this gentleman here, if you didn't know, you probably think he's my brother. He looks so much alike. Very handsome guy. And so this is Pak Uban, whom we will meet again later when we do the mystical thing. Okay, and this is Tasik Ardi itself, which is a very unique lake. It's an artificial lake, which I'm going to play the video here so you can have a quick view of. It's a reservoir actually, built during the reign of Sultan Maulana in 1570 to 1580. Today, this was the time when we went. It was like the dry season, so the lake was Tasik Ardi, and they did have great assistance from the Dutch. At that time, the Dutch were still just coming to trade. They were not yet conquerors per se. And so the Dutch helped the Sultan to build the reservoir. So it's quite unique that in 1570 the Sultan had already thought about having a reservoir for the area, and it was used not just for the palace but also for irrigation and so on. But of course, in today's modern world, there are other irrigation schemes, so that the lake itself is no longer something very, very critical. It's more touristic than anything else. And then after that, we visited the Vihara Avalokitesvara, which is one of the oldest It's not the oldest. Apparently, there's one that is older in another part of Java, but this is one of the oldest. As I mentioned earlier, there were Chinese, Indian, Arab, Persian traders, and each of them did have their own houses of worship. So although this one is one of the oldest, there is very little left of the original structure. All that you can see here, of course, the newer structures that have been rebuilt or expanded or improved over time. Okay, and it was very interesting. And for myself as well, because my grandmother, my late grandmother, was a lesser princess of the Qing dynasty, and so you know, has some resonance with me as well, even though I'm not full-blooded Chinese, I'm quarter of everything. Okay, now this right in front of the Vihara Avalokitesvara is the Old Dutch fort in Indonesian called Banten Spielwijk. Spielwijk is of course the Dutch name, and Benteng means fort. Okay, we do use it in Malaysian Malay too, but we use more of kubu, although we understand Benteng. So I'm going to play the video so you can have an overall view. Sorry, I'm always in my videos or in my selfies because, you know, I'm a handsome guy, so it's kind of a waste if I'm not in there. Ha ha ha.
Benteng
Okay, Benteng Spielwijk. Okay, so concentrate on the view behind me, not on me. Okay. Even though I kind of look good there with my the hair blowing in, the wind blowing in my hair. But see, the fort is very big. It is huge. The Dutch really knew how to make sure that their interests were covered. Okay, taking land and then building a huge fort to take care of their trading interests. And we have some more views of the Benteng Spielwijk. You can see the brickwork here as built by the Dutch. And it's interesting for us heritage lovers. We know you show us a brick, we can tell this is late Dutch or early Dutch. This is British or this is Portuguese. You know, all their bricks and even Malay bricks as well, Chinese bricks, they all have different characteristics, different configurations, different colors. But of course, colors can depend also on the place where the clay was taken. So that's not the main indicator, but size and configuration is one of the main indicators. So this is very clearly early Dutch, okay, because the Benteng Spielwijk was completed in 1632 and expanded further in 1635. You know, they were very, very early there. Anyway, you can also see here they have tunnels going in and out, you know, with the ability to go from one part to the other, covered under tunnels and all that. You know, they were very good at their forts planning. And of course, there were a lot of local people here. And now the thing is, Indonesians are very relaxed. They're very relaxed, and I kind of admire that, relaxed about their heritage. They take care of it very well, but at the same time, locals really feel that they are part of it. You know, these boys were playing football inside the fort. Okay, that's why I wanted to take photos with. They were playing football inside the fort. Can you imagine Malaysian authorities allowing that? I'm not saying this is good or bad. It's just, you know, a different attitude towards it. So because of that, these kids feel very much that the fort belongs to them. They belong to the fort. They play football in it. You know, they will grow up remembering this fort as part of their childhood. You know, so you know, it's another way of thinking, which we might want to rethink how we think of our heritage here, which is always very, very I don't know, Americans would say tight ass. You know, sorry about that. Sorry, pardon my French or pardon my American. Okay, and we next visited this was the highlight of well, one of the highlights of our tour. And this is the Masjid Agung Kesultanan Banten. I'm going to play the video.
Hello there, and
just
we
listen
just
to me.
Finished our prayers at this beautiful historic mosque in Serang, Banten, province of Banten in western Java, Indonesia. And as you can see, it's a very lively place. This beautiful mosque was built in 1556 and has withstood the test of time, standing through many earthquakes and
I had a lot of distractions.
Dutch colonialization and so on and so forth. So do come here do your prayers here and visit the mausoleum of the Sultan as well, and the royal family of Banten. Of course, the Sultanate doesn't exist anymore. The province does in the Republic of Indonesia, but I think they want me to take a photograph with them, so bye-bye.
I had a lot of distractions then, a lot of pretty girls around smiling at me and stuff like that. So, well, pretty boys too, I guess. But anyway, next we go to inside the mosque where remember I mentioned the mausoleum, there was a huge crowd wanting to go and pay their respects in the mausoleum of the family of Sultan and or the Sultans. And so this picture on the left is the crowd before, and we were very lucky because, as Dato mentioned, we were guests of honor. We were allowed to overtake the locals, and they were very gracious. Nobody gave us bad looks when they found out that we are visitors from Malaysia. They were smiling. They said, "Yeah, masuk dulu Pak, masuk dulu Pak. Go in first, go in first." Wonderful people. They're not like us. Who would say, "Oh, apa tu? How can they cut us now?" But anyway, so this is the view inside. These are part of our entourage, and you can see the actual tombstones of the royal family, and we sit there and we recite our prayers to be gifted to the souls of the sultans. Now, Indonesia, of course, is a republic, but many Indonesians have mentioned to me privately, this is of course their private opinion and not everybody would agree, but they kind of admire that we still have all our sultans, because many of them, they remember the nostalgia of the sultanates that they had, and how it would have been a kind of stabilizer for their societies. At least that's what I was told. And of course, not everybody would agree. So we have to respect each other's opinions. But it's nice to know that they do. Well, some of them do envy us for retaining our royal families as part of the stable society and government that we have, and which was proven in the last two changes of government that we went through. And this is a view of the interior of the mosque. I'm going to be a bit naughty here because they are praying and I am not praying. Okay, so you see there. Okay, this is the inside of this beautiful old mosque from 15. Let me get my facts right. 1585, if my memory serves me right. I was just saying it. Goodness, what a bad memory I have. Anyway, so you can see they are praying there. Okay, I do have to explain so that people don't think that I'm such a bad person. The reason I'm not praying is that I have already prayed Jamak Takdim when we first entered the mosque. So they're praying Asar. We came in at Zohor, and so we had already, our team, our entourage had already prayed Asar. So they were praying Asar. We don't have to anymore since we are travelers. Okay, but it's a beautiful mosque. If you go to Banten, you must pray here, and for Muslims, of course. And pay your respects to the royal family, who very, very, very much loved by the people of Banten until today. And this is another big highlight of our visit to Banten. This is the old royal palace. It's in ruins today. It was destroyed by the Dutch in 1832, but it was built a few decades earlier, in the early part of the 17th century, and this is what Dato has mentioned, Keraton Kaibon, which means Keraton Keibuan, because the Sultan built it not just for himself, but also for his mother, his beloved mother. I don't know what his wife was thinking about that, but I guess they had a good relationship. And so let me play the video. Okay. There's no narration here, but you can hear the the irrigation. Oh my goodness, how come I forgot the word for that? Irrigation for the grass, and sprinkler. Yes, sprinkler system. Thank you very much. And did you see just now, the boys were playing basketball inside there. You see, it's the same thing. Just now at Fort Spielweg, they were playing football, and here they're playing basketball. They're very relaxed. You see all the kids are there, they're yes, there is a fence around it, and you can. I was just showing my handsome face there, but these are the ruins destroyed by the Dutch in 1832 when they took over Banten, they, it's beautiful. It's built in brick and plaster. Using local technology. Of course, there was some technology learned from the Dutch or from the Europeans, but for the most part, you can see that the designs, everything very, very local designs. They didn't ape Western design. And so we go on to the next scene. Okay, now this is the scene, the mystical scene where we have, remember Pak Uban that I mentioned earlier? This is his group. The Dabus, okay, Dabus or Debus is a sort of a mystical silat kind of thing, which we also have in Malaysia, especially in Perak. Yeah, there is a Dabus in Perak, and I think they are related because being from Perak myself, I remember seeing presentations of a Dabus in Perak. But this is the first time that I've seen it in Banten, the Banten version of it, and they were doing a lot of things quite supernatural, you might say. They were eating glass. They broke. They asked us to hold the glass. It's real glass, and then they break it and then they eat it. Very, very wow. I don't know. You can imagine. But then they came to the part where this gentleman here in black, okay, he was holding a real golok. Okay, he will mention it, golok, which is like a meat cleaver or machete or whatever it is, and it was real because he was showing how it did draw blood on others who were part of their team. They were used to showing that it is very sharp. And here, one of our friend here, I think this is Rizal, he was asked to be the first how do you say it, volunteer to have his hand cut. And Rizal sort of chickened out, so he did. You see, he slowly backs away. And so they were looking for another victim, and here I am right there. Okay, look, the guy here, he is cutting the hair. It's so there. He's cutting the hair of that local volunteer, and then they approach me to have my hand cut. Okay, I'll leave it from now. I'm trying to get out of it. Jangan Pak. That's my voice. But he was pulling my hand. You see that guy? His hand is already bloody because he was demonstrating that the golok was a real golok. Okay, so somebody was holding my camera, and now I'm in the picture. See, he's cutting his hair with the real golok. And he let me touch it. It's a real thing. It's not plastic. It's real metal. Okay, and he's going to cut my hand now. Okay, so he recited some mantras. He recited some things. Okay, and then he put his hand over mine. Okay. Yeah, Pak Najib orang kuat Malaysia. Okay, and he is cutting my hand. I was looking at him all the time. He was really, I could feel the metal trying to cut through my hand, but it didn't go through. He really, yeah, it was amazing. It wasn't, bukan main-main, it wasn't like a little touch. He was really trying to cut my hand, but it didn't go through. So that was, I don't know if I'll go through that again. I read that was really a leap of faith. And only after that did Dato Zul agree to have his hand tried as well. There you go, Dato. Yes. Okay. But the video doesn't go any further. Yeah, that's where the video ended. So anyway, there you go. That was a real mystical experience where really a golo, a machete or whatever it is in English, the gentleman really tried to cut my hand with it. So how did it feel? Yes, it felt as if there was something trying to cut, but it just didn't go through. In Malay, you say tak lut. Dia tak lut. Okay. And so that's my hand after that. Remember, he had hit it with his hands, and I think that was part of the mantra of how it became Kebal, invincible. Okay. And, it makes you wonder if they could have all this invincibility, why did the Dutch still manage to colonize them? Same with us in Malaysia and same with everywhere. Maybe the Dutch had better invincible stuff, which we don't know. Their genies were stronger than our genies. I don't know. something for a PhD to to try and uncover. But anyway, don't forget the music. That was lovely music, and I'd like you to hear the music again here. Okay, these are the musicians. Okay, now if you hear it, it's actually very similar to our nobat and our makyong. Okay, it's very similar. The sound is very similar, slight difference. I'm a makyong dancer, so I know the sound very well. I used to dance to this kind of sound. Okay, now look at the serunai player, okay? Same as in Malaysia, especially in Kelantan. Do you notice he doesn't need to take a breath? Same as in Kelantan. It's continuous. Did you realize that he didn't need to stop and take a breath like Western flute players and stuff need to? Okay, and the final picture down here is where you can see again, kids playing football in this 200-year-old ancient palace. It's amazing how they're so relaxed about it, and yet it's very well preserved, considering that the situation it is in, considering that they have earthquakes. Really, you have to admire them. Okay, and a little bit about the hotels that we stayed in. We stayed at Hotel Fame. The name of this Hotel Fame in Serang City in Banten. And the two pictures on the right are pictures of the lobby of the hotel, where it's a Hollywood movie theme. Well, not just Hollywood, but movie theme. So all the props, all the decor is all about movies, and they even have wigs for you to use. And after wearing this and looking at it now, it reminds me of our one blonde lady politician that we have, who's quite notorious. But anyway, but from our hotel, we could see this other fantastic hotel on the left picture here, which I forgot the name of the hotel, but let me play the video and you can see how unique it is. Okay, sorry, it's taken from the bathroom while I was having a bath, and I looked out the window and saw this, so I thought I'd better take the photo. You see how the colors are changing, and someone was saying, oh, how I wish we could have stayed in that hotel. And I said, no, we should stay here. And look at that, because if you're staying inside that hotel, it's like being in a cage. You can't see how the colors are changing from the inside. Betul tak? See, so it's better that we stayed here. We can just watch out the window and see how beautiful this luxury hotel across the street was changing its color all night. Okay. And really, I have to hurry because I don't have that much time. But anyway, this is the next day. We went to the Pura Hindu Bali, Parahyangan Jagat Huluj. So you don't have to go to Bali. You go to Banten and you can really see a real Hindu pura. Pura, of course, means temple in Balinese. It is related to the word pura in Malay, as in Singapura, meaning abode for Malay. So pura, they have extended to become temple. And it is a real temple. When we arrived there, they were actually having prayers. Beautiful. And this is the priest here on the left. You can see my cursor, a very handsome guy. And let me play the video here so you can see the detail. It's just like in Bali, beautiful detailing of the plastering and the brickwork, the carvings, and then on top of it again the pavilion with fantastic carvings. So if you're in Banten and you want to have a feel of Bali, well, this is the place for you. Now, as we went back to Jakarta, we passed through some new developments, and this is quite weird actually. This is in BSD City. Okay, you can see here on the upper right, BSD is Bumi Serpong Damai. Serpong is the name of the neighborhood or the city on the way from Serang, the capital of Banten, back towards Tangerang and then towards Jakarta. So you can see that they were actually copying designs from you. For us architects, you can easily tell this is a sort of Venetian, Byzantine copycat, which you can see from the Doge Palace in Venice. And then this one here is almost a copy of the architecture of the Moorish architecture of Alhambra, Granada in Andalusian Spain. So, fantastic. They just, took all these designs and plonked it here in Indonesia. The sad thing is that similar to what we Malaysians do, the shop owners, they just cover it all up with plastic signs and big, they don't care about the beautiful detailing that the architects have done. Whereas in Europe, I don't have to tell you, for those of you who have gone to Europe, in Europe, they will painstakingly design their signages to blend in with the facade. Whereas here, we just cover it up with plastic signs. Malaysia, Indonesia, sama lah, Hong Kong, we're all East Asians with this kind of thing. Our next stop was at Pelabuhan Sunda Kelapa port. And this is a unique port which has been operating almost exactly like this since the 16th century. Whereas these ships have been operating since even further. Remember that before the 9th century AD, it was Malay ships going up to China, not the other way around. Chinese ships started coming down into Southeast Asia only from the late 9th century onwards. Before that, it was Malay ships, Persian ships, Arabian ships going to the ports of Guangzhou and so on. So these are the technology that is still existing today. I've been to their shipyards in Sulawesi. These are made by the Bugis people, and the Bugis are great shipbuilders and traders. Okay, we sometimes in Malaysia, we unfairly label them as pirates, but actually they are more seafarers and traders. There were some pirates here and there, but because of those pirates, everybody gets a bad name. But I was lucky enough to sail on one of these two Banda, and that's what I mentioned earlier. I went to Ibu Tanya's home island of Banda, sailing on one of these. It was a fantastic 2-week trip, which I paid $12,000 for. Can you imagine that? $12,000. That was the year I was a millionaire, so it didn't matter to me. But anyway, let's have a look at the video of the port of Sunda Kelapa, and you can see stretching as far as the horizon all these pinisi ships using traditional Indonesian wooden shipping technology. All the way as far as the eye can see, these ships are still operating today, carrying cargo across the Indonesian archipelago. And another video here, which shows a bit closer. They look a little bit rickety, but these ships have been sailing for the oldest one here is already about 70 years and still sailing. So I mean, even modern ships don't last 70 years. So fantastic. I hope the technology continues. Because I have been to the actual shipbuilding in Bulukumba in Sulawesi when I was doing part of my National Geographic assignments there. Okay, and we're heading towards the end. This is, of course, the beautiful old part of Jakarta, or old Batavia, and with all the Dutch buildings. On the left here is the Museum of History of Jakarta in Fathahillah Square. Now, this wide-angle photo is a little bit misleading, but actually this really isn't on the left, and this building on the right, they are looking at each other. Okay, so it's not like this overstretched photo shows. It's just to have everything inside. And this is the famous Batavia Cafe. If you can see my cursor here, Batavia Cafe. And do be careful if you go there and have coffee. For Muslims, don't order the Irish coffee like some of our members did, because Irish coffee has whiskey. Okay, so you might get a little bit tipsy if you drink a few cups of Irish coffee, especially if you've never drunk whiskey before. I have accidentally drunk whiskey before. Accidentally, I stress accidentally. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't know it was whiskey, and I got tipsy, meaning mabuk lah. Okay, so then I knew, okay, no Irish coffee for me. And now I want to highlight here, look at these buildings built by the Dutch. Okay, this is the inside. This is the back part of this picture, where this is the Indonesian Museum of Fine Arts and Ceramics, okay, using an old Dutch building. And you see, the Dutch built in their own style. It's very clear. They built in their European style. And it was quite rarely that they incorporated local styles, but they did in some places, like in the Bandung Institute of Technology. But for the most part, for the administrative buildings, they built in their own styles. Same with the Spanish in the Philippines, same with the French in Indochina. But for the British, you see this little, that's why I included this little photo here of our own Bangunan Sultan Abdul Samad, where the British built in an Islamic style. They didn't build in a British or European style. Okay, so something to think about. I wouldn't give you the answer immediately, but there was a reason for that. Okay, there's a reason why the British were very careful to build not in a British European style. They did in Singapore, they did in Penang, but they did not do so in Kuala Lumpur. And there was a reason for that. Okay, I haven't touched much on food because if we go into that, we'll all be hungry, and it's only like what, not lunchtime yet. But I do want to mention about street food, because the street food anywhere in the world is just wonderful. I have a very strong stomach, and everywhere I go, whether it's here anywhere in Indonesia, I tried street food in Cambodia, even in India, and I didn't have the Delhi belly because my stomach is so used to all these horrible unhygienic food. But to be fair, Indonesian street food is quite clean. Yeah, I've never had any problems. I'm not saying you should eat it because maybe your stomachs can't take it. But for this is hot food. Okay, look at the, he's cooking it right then and there. You'll hear me talking.
Ayam dah biasa, pakai bebek.
Bebek or ite. So that is telur ite. That is duck egg, not chicken egg. Okay, and they're also friendly. That they really chat with each other. That lady there is chatting. Yeah, I love the Indonesian accent of our language. Since I'm in Indonesia so much, I speak like them anyway. So look at how he's cooking it. Okay, I'm going to ask him the ingredients. Very simple. It is so simple. It took him just 4 minutes to cook that entire thing, which can be used as like a big snack. This is it on the right hand side here, and it's called kerak telur. Kerak telur.
Tadi mulanya ada nasi ya, Pak? Beras ketan. Beras ketan.
Okay, that's beras ketan, which is pulut in Malay. Okay, they use pulut as well. But they have a synonym, ketan, in Javanese. Yes, I'm asking how he's cooking it and all that. So yeah. Some of our Malaysians couldn't understand some Indonesian. So, because of the difference in accent, and some key words are quite different. But this is how it looks like, and it's very yummy. But you should eat this kerak telur with strong black coffee. It's just heavenly. When you sit there under the shady trees, with all the smell of the tour buses, fumes and all that, it's wonderful. Okay, and this is Masjid Istiklal, one of the world's biggest mosques, right here in Jakarta, completed in 1978. And this is the one photo which I took from the internet. This is not my own or any one of our groups. The rest are all mine, because I wanted to show how filled it is. At its most. At its highest capacity, it can fill 120,000 people. Okay, 120,000 people can jam into this huge mosque because it has 5 stories. Oh, by the way, this is Ibu Sandra. Ibu Sandra, I hope you are here with us. Yeah, Ibu Ada, our lovely tour guide who was such a wonderful friend to us until today in our WhatsApp group. And also on this picture below, I want to again show how relaxed Indonesians are. These kids, they are in the mosque, people are sleeping there, and nobody scolds them. If you do this in Malaysian mosques, the administrators will come and really, bang you and scold you, and, really terrible. I've had arguments with local mosque administrators saying that if you want people to love your mosque, don't scold them when they come and relax in it, because the mosques around the world are not as tight as Malaysian mosques. Really, I'm sorry to use the Americanism, but we should learn to be like in Turkey. They're also very relaxed. Children play hide and seek in the mosque. They run around, and that's how they love the mosques, because when they grow up, they remember they've been playing in the mosque. Whereas here, when kids just make noise a little bit at the back, they are scolded like crazy. It was really bad. I'm really angry with our Malaysian mosque administrators, and I always have arguments with them. And I tell my kids, you run around, don't worry about them. I'm here to protect you. So they run around in the mosque, and they love the mosque. So I don't care. Anyway, this is a video of the interior of Istiklal Mosque. It's 5 stories. It's a combination of traditional decor, but a very modern look. Those are the 5 stories of the arcades, and then the huge dome above. But of course, the dome of Sultan Salahuddin Abdul Aziz Shah Mosque in Shah Alam is bigger than this. Okay. And this is one of the last slides. One of the last places we visited was the Monas, Monument Nasional to Indonesian Independence, 1945, at 132 meters high. It's taller than our Dataran Merdeka flag pole. And of course, everybody does the usual thing. You try to take funny photos with it. There's one of our architects here. There's a lot of sculpture around. It's a very, very friendly place. It used to be even friendlier when they had so many vendors, food vendors around, but it's more controlled now. There's still vendors, but they've controlled it. Now, I kind of understand it was getting a bit out of hand. There was just vendors everywhere. It was too friendly, so they have controlled it a lot. These 2 statues here are ondel-ondel. These are very, very Jakarta or Betawi. Betawi is the local name for what the Dutch call Batavia. It's an older name than Batavia. And these are figures of welcome. And sometimes there are actual people inside them. And you'll see them walking around during festivals and such. They are symbols of welcome in Jakarta. And there's usually 1 male, 1 female, with the male usually having a colored there's a whole story behind it, a colored face, whereas the woman is always very, very pale white. Well, sometimes there are differences. So they have their own stories on that. And one of the last things we took photographs of was the presidential palace, Istana Nagara, which we also call our king's palace, Istana Nagara. But for them, of course, they don't have a king. So it's the president. And it was, of course, an old old Dutch building in colonial Indonesia. So there you have it. And in our last day, we went shopping. Apalagi kan, Malaysians just love to shop. Malaysians are rich. And so we went to Tamrin City. We went to Tamrin Trade Mall. We went to, I don't know how many malls are all over the Tamrin area of Jakarta. And we came back with loads and loads of bags. But for me, my idea of shopping is books, and the top floor is reserved for secondhand books, and I just had a wonderful time. I bought so many books. That's my plastic. That's only the first plastic bag. After that, I had another 7 plastic bags filled with books, magazines. Indonesia has their own National Geographic magazine in Indonesian, which we can read because it's in Bahasa Baku. Meaning standard Indonesian, which is very close to standard Malaysian. The difference is when we speak. When we speak, it's very different. But when it's written, especially in National Geographic style, which is very, very proper, we can easily read National Geographic Indonesia. And the last thing here is there was this unfortunate guy who drove his beautiful Mercedes over the curb and it got stuck. So we were treated to that. I kind of forgot. I remember there were because by the time I saw it, it was already like this, and there was a man and a woman. I think they were husband and wife. So I'm not sure whether it was the husband who was driving or the wife who was driving. Of course, the man will say it's the woman driving. The woman will say no, it must have been the husband driving. But anyway, they were having an argument about what happened, and until the bus left, they were still stuck there. Poor guys. Anyway. I know one of the spices of life. They will remember that for the rest of their lives. Anyway, we had a wonderful trip, and this is terima kasih in the local language, which is Bantenis Sundanis Hatur Nuhun. Okay, back to our moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Nash, and it's a very excellent talk. And
thank you.
We just stand, we just sit still, listening. Hoping for more from you. Okay, I'm so thankful to Architect Nash for giving a very insightful talk and stories about the trips. And I also like to thank everyone for staying tuned with us till the end of the presentation. The number, only one left, I think, from that number. Yeah, and then I'm so sorry because we don't have a time for Q&A as informed by the organizer, because we have overshot by 16 minutes. We are supposed to end at 12, but they said, okay, never mind, let's finish the thing, the talks. But it's not much time for a Q&A. So sorry for that. If anyone has any question, maybe you can post directly to the secretariat, then we can answer personally. And okay, I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation, and hopefully we'll see you again in our future trips, which we are planning. But due to this constraint by the pandemic, we have to sort of postpone it, you know. But it's already in the pipeline. It's just time that will tell when are we going to have it. And hopefully we see you again in a future presentation. It's always nice to hear about trips. You know, there's a lot of new things. There's as I said in the beginning, architects do travels a lot, especially like architect Najib. He's an architect, a qualified architect, but he chose to spend more time as a tour guide to all over the world, and he can speak 11 languages. Is that true, Architect Najib?
Oh, no, only 10, not 11.
Oh, only 10. Okay, that's a lot already. So to all those young architects, you know, inspiring to be an architect, I think we can take a lesson from what Architect Najib is doing. We don't just you know, draw, and we don't just looking at the design, but there's a lot more things that we can do as an architect. We can be like Architect Najib, a professional tour guide who can explain very well and speak very good languages, 10 languages. That's amazing. Okay, everyone, I think we have to call an end for this session, because the organizer already alerted me that we already overshot by now 19 minutes. So with that, I thank you everyone again for staying tuned. 171 people are still here. So, okay, we have to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Garis Pixel. Terima kasih,
Terima kasih,
Pam
Garis
Cpd
Pixel.
Committee.